Welcome to Dr. Owusu Institute. In this video, you will be walked through MVA knowledge sample test questions and answers. During the final test at the MVA, the knowledge test includes 25 multiple choice questions, and applicants must answer at least 22 correctly to pass. All test information is available in the Maryland Driver's Manual. The test is administered on a computer with a set time limit. Applicants who are deaf or hard of hearing may request an interpreter. Let's get started. The maximum posted speed limit should be driven only under ideal conditions. The posted maximum speed limit is the fastest legal speed you can travel on a road under ideal conditions. It is safest to drive at the same speed as surrounding traffic up to the maximum speed limit. Maintaining a safe speed at all times is a responsibility shared by all motorists. BAC means blood alcohol concentration. Blood alcohol concentration, BAC, is a measurement of the amount of alcohol in a person's blood. Drivers aged 21 or older are considered to be driving under the influence of alcohol when their blood alcohol concentration is 0.08% or higher. It is unsafe for a child under the age of to ride in the front seat of a passenger vehicle. 13. Children under the age of 13 should ride buckled up in a rear seat, in an appropriate child safety seat, or a seat belt. For best protection, they should not ride in the front seat near the airbag. What can you do to reduce road rage? Always signal your intention when changing lanes. To do your part to prevent road rage, you should follow laws, signs, signals, and pavement markings. Always signal your intention when changing lanes. In inclement weather, you should steer and brake smoothly. When driving during unfavorable weather conditions, avoid slamming on the brakes and making sharp, quick turns. These behaviors will make controlling your vehicle in inclement weather even more difficult. When being passed by another vehicle, maintain a constant speed. When being passed, you must yield to the passing vehicle and not increase your speed. Allow the vehicle to safely merge back into your lane. If you are approaching an emergency vehicle that is stopped while it uses its visual signals, you should move into the lane farthest from the vehicle or decrease your speed. If you are approaching an emergency vehicle that is using its visual signals and is stopped on a roadway, you must pull into an available lane not immediately adjacent to the vehicle. If it is not possible to move over, you must slow down to a safe speed and be prepared to stop if necessary. MVA will suspend the license of any driver with a blood alcohol concentration, BAC, test result of 0.08% or higher. Any person who drives or attempts to drive a motor vehicle on a roadway in Maryland consents to take a test determining the concentration of alcohol or any other controlled dangerous substance in their blood. The MVA will suspend the license of any driver who submits to the test and is determined to have at least a 0.08% blood alcohol concentration, BAC. If you come up behind a vehicle stopped at a crosswalk, you may not pass that vehicle. A driver may not pass any vehicle that is stopped at a crosswalk. Drivers must yield to pedestrians anytime they enter the roadway. All drivers under the age of 21 have a restriction prohibiting them from driving or attempting to drive after consuming any alcohol. If you are not yet 21 years of age, it is not legal for you to be drinking at all. If you are pulled over and you have been drinking, your license will be suspended or revoked. In addition, you could be charged for violating the alcohol restriction on your license. If a child is riding a bicycle near your vehicle, expect the unexpected. Children on bicycles are sometimes unpredictable. Young bicyclists are especially likely to make surprising changes in direction. Remember that children and bicycles are both small in stature and may become difficult to see. Using a cell phone while operating a motor vehicle is considered a distraction because it occupies the driver's hands, eyes, and mind. Using a cell phone while driving is dangerous because it occupies the user's eyes, hands, and mind. Even the most skilled drivers increase their risk of being involved in a crash by using a cell phone on the road. If a vehicle is equipped with airbags, seat belts should still be worn. Airbags are important safety devices that provide protection in crashes. For best protection, a vehicle's lap and shoulder belts should be used in combination with airbags. Implied consent means you must submit to a requested chemical test to determine your blood alcohol concentration, BAC. Any person who drives or attempts to drive a motor vehicle on a roadway in Maryland consents to take a test determining the concentration of alcohol or any other controlled dangerous substance in their blood. The MVA will suspend the license of any driver who submits to the test and is determined to have at least a 0.08% BAC. What is a crosswalk? The area where pedestrians may cross the roadway. Pedestrian crosswalks are often shown by white, solid lines to emphasize pedestrian crossing points. Crosswalks may have additional lines between the white, solid lines or in place of the parallel lines. However, crosswalks may also be unmarked. Hydroplaning is when the tires lose contact with the road surface. As vehicle speed increases and the amount of water on the roadway increases, vehicles tend to ride on a cushion of water and the tires lose contact with the road. This is called hydroplaning. Hydroplaning can cause partial or complete loss of control of the vehicle. At a crosswalk, you must yield to pedestrians. Pedestrians have the right of way at street crossings, but must obey traffic control signals. Where a traffic signal is not present, vehicles must stop for pedestrians in a crosswalk, whether it is marked or unmarked. Having a driver license is a privilege. It is important to remember that driving is a privilege and that all drivers play a role in ensuring that everyone remains safe on the roadways. If you prove to be abusive of that privilege, the privilege may be revoked. When in a vehicle, wear a seatbelt. All the time. Maryland motor vehicle law requires that the driver and the front seat passenger must always wear a seatbelt. In addition, any individual under the age of 16 must wear a seatbelt or be restrained in a child safety seat, regardless of seating position. If you are driving at night, when should you use your high beam headlights? When there are no oncoming vehicles approaching. Use high beams on open roads which are unlit by streetlights in order to see persons or vehicles ahead. You must change to low beams at least 500 feet before meeting oncoming vehicles. You must also change to low beam lights when following a vehicle at a distance of 300 feet or less. You may be able to identify an aggressive driver by their erratic and improper lane changes. While driving, you should remain aware of the actions of surrounding drivers. If you notice an aggressive driver nearby making erratic or improper lane changes, you should not challenge them. The safest way to handle an aggressive driver is to get out of their way. When following another vehicle at night, you should use your low beams. Use your low beam headlights when following a vehicle at a distance of 300 feet or closer. High beams can reduce visibility when shining directly into a driver's face or mirrors. Texting while driving a motor vehicle is not legal. Maryland vehicle law prohibits any use of handheld cell phones while operating a motor vehicle. Although hands-free devices are permitted, drivers should minimize calls and focus on safe driving practices. Any use of a cell phone while driving is considered distracted driving and increases the risk of an accident. If a service vehicle, such as a tow truck or recycling truck, is stopped on the side of the road ahead while its signal lights are flashing, you should move into a lane that is not adjacent to the stopped vehicle. If a service vehicle, such as a tow truck or recycling truck, is stopped on the side of the road ahead while its signal lights are flashing, you must pull into an available lane not immediately adjacent to the vehicle. If it is not possible to move over, you should slow to a safe speed and be prepared to stop if necessary. Who is required by law to wear a seatbelt while in a moving vehicle? All occupants. In Maryland, all occupants of a moving vehicle are required by law to use properly fastened seatbelts. If a passenger is under the age of 16 and is not wearing a seatbelt, the driver will be fined. A driver is responsible for ensuring that any child under the age of 8 and shorter than required be seated in a federally approved child passenger safety device system while in a moving vehicle. 4 feet, 9 inches, Maryland law requires children who are under the age of 8 and less than 4 feet, 9 inches in height to be seated in federally approved child safety seats while in moving vehicles. The driver of a vehicle transporting child passengers is responsible for their safety. Under ideal driving conditions, you should maintain a following distance of at least 3 to 4 seconds. Under ideal driving conditions, a driver should maintain a minimum following distance of 3 or 4 seconds. When driving in conditions that are less than ideal, or when following a vehicle that will be making regular stops, the driver should increase their following distance. A license will be revoked if a driver refuses to submit to a chemical test. By operating a vehicle on Maryland roadways, a driver automatically consents to taking a test determining their blood alcohol concentration when requested to do so by an officer. If a driver refuses the test, their license will be suspended or revoked for a period of time. A driver with a learner's permit or provisional license may use a cell phone while driving. If they are making an emergency call, in the state of Maryland, it is against the law for a driver holding a learner's permit or provisional license to make a phone call while operating a vehicle, except in the event of an emergency. It is against the law for drivers of any age to read or send text messages while driving. A driver who is age 18 or older may talk on a hands-free cell phone while driving. A driver who is age 18 or older may use a hands-free cell phone to have a conversation while driving, but it is important to remember that it is never safe to drive while using a cell phone. No driver of any age is permitted to use a handheld cell phone while driving, unless it is to report an emergency. A driver may text while driving, under no circumstances. In the state of Maryland, it is against the law for any driver to use a cell phone to send or read text messages while driving. Any use of handheld cell phones while driving is prohibited, unless it is to report an emergency. Defensive driving is controlling a vehicle to avoid a crash. Defensive driving is controlling a vehicle as necessary to avoid any crashes. Driving defensively requires a driver to constantly manage risks while observing their surroundings. To drive defensively, you should constantly observe your surroundings to all sides. To drive defensively, a driver should be constantly aware of their surroundings and be prepared to change speed or road position at any time. To do this, a driver must observe the surroundings on every side of their vehicle. To drive defensively, you should consider risk management at all times. Driving a motor vehicle presents dangerous risks. To minimize the risks, you should constantly use risk management techniques, such as communicating with other drivers by using your turn signals, responding to road conditions in real time, and otherwise generally driving with caution, assuming that other drivers will always behave in the ways they are supposed to, is unwise. Driving defensively means that a driver avoids crashes by anticipating problems before they happen. A good defensive driver will never assume that other drivers are going to do what they should to drive safely. A driver should be prepared to respond to unsafe situations at any time. A double solid white line between two lanes means lanes are moving in the same direction and passing is not permitted. White lines between lanes of traffic indicate that traffic is moving in the same direction, and solid lines between lanes of traffic means passing is not permitted. Double solid white lines are often found separating HOV lanes from other lanes of traffic and should never be crossed by drivers. Double broken yellow lines indicate a reversible lane. Double broken yellow lines indicate the edge of a reversible lane. When driving next to double broken yellow lines, look for signs that direct the flow of traffic and make sure you are traveling in the correct direction. Dotted yellow or white lines extend lanes through intersections. Dotted yellow or white lines are used to extend lanes through intersections. A dotted line will be the same color as the line that is being extended. Speeding, a driver's ability to maneuver their vehicle around obstacles, corners, and curves, reduces driving at a speed faster than the posted maximum speed limit is dangerous and is not worth the risk. Speeding can greatly reduce a driver's ability to maneuver their vehicle around obstacles, corners, and curves. The impact of a crash at 60 miles per hour is equal to that of a fall off a building. 10-story. Excessive speeding greatly increases the impact of a crash. If your car hit a solid, stationary object while traveling at 60 miles per hour, it would have the same impact as an object hitting the ground after falling from a 10-story building. Maryland drivers are required to drive at a speed that is reasonable and prudent. According to the Maryland vehicle law, drivers must only operate their vehicles at a speed that is reasonable and prudent. This means that although a driver should never drive faster than the maximum posted speed limit, they should drive more slowly than the posted speed limit anytime conditions require it. When driving near a shopping center, in a parking lot, or in a downtown area, a driver should decrease their speed. Drivers should exercise extra caution in some driving scenarios. They should decrease their speed when driving near a shopping center, in a parking lot, or in a downtown area. If you see a playground near the road, you should drive more slowly. A driver should consistently adjust their driving in order to operate at a speed that is reasonable and prudent at all times. If the driver is near a school, playground, or residential area, it is safest to decrease their speed and watch for children and other pedestrians near the road. Excessive speed contributes to high numbers of vehicle crashes. Excessive speed contributes to high numbers of vehicle crashes. Drivers should only ever travel at speeds that are reasonable and prudent. If you need to pass a bicycle being ridden on the road, on the shoulder, or in a bike lane, you should slow down and pass with at least 3 feet of clearance. If you need to pass a bicycle being ridden on the road, on the shoulder, or in a bike lane, you should slow down and pass while putting at least 3 feet between your vehicle and the bicycle. Be especially cautious when passing a bicycle because a bicycle crash comes with an increased risk of injury or death. If you are following a vehicle that may make frequent stops, such as a bus or delivery truck, you should maintain a minimum following distance of 4 or 5 seconds. Under ideal driving conditions, a driver should maintain a minimum following distance of 3 or 4 seconds. However, when following a vehicle that will be making regular stops, the driver should increase their following distance to at least 4 or 5 seconds. While driving a motor vehicle, it is illegal to either drink from or possess open containers of alcohol. Open containers of alcohol are not permitted to be in the passenger area of any moving vehicle. This includes space in the vehicle that can be occupied by the driver or any passenger. A passenger in a moving motor vehicle may consume alcohol. Under no circumstances. Open containers of alcohol are not permitted to be in the passenger area of any moving vehicle. This includes space in the vehicle that can be occupied by the driver or any passenger. If convicted of driving while impaired by alcohol, jail time and fines may be if children were present in the car at the time of the traffic stop. Double driving while impaired by drugs or alcohol is both illegal and dangerous. If a driver is stopped for impaired driving and children are present in the vehicle, the driver may face jail time and/or fines that are double the usual penalty. Alcohol can negatively affect someone's ability to drive. Even if their blood alcohol concentration, BAC, is lower than 0.08%. Alcohol can negatively affect someone's ability to drive after just one drink. A person can face criminal penalties for driving while impaired by alcohol, even if their BAC is still below the legal limit at the time of a traffic stop. If you are traveling in dangerously thick fog, it may be a good idea to pull off the road and turn on your emergency four-way flashers. When driving in fog, you should decrease your speed and use your low-beam headlights. If you are caught in thick fog that lowers visibility and creates conditions that are too dangerous for driving, you should safely pull off the road and park while using your four-way emergency flashers. When driving in fog, you should decrease your speed. Anytime you experience lowered visibility while driving, such as in foggy or rainy conditions, you should decrease your speed and increase your following distance. Use your low beam headlights in fog and rain. When driving in snowy or icy conditions, you should decrease your speed. Reduce your speed when roads are snow-covered or icy. Doing this and increasing your following distance when traveling on slippery roads are the best things a driver can do to avoid crashes and collisions. You are especially likely to encounter aggressive drivers if you are driving in an area with road construction. You are especially likely to encounter aggressive drivers on crowded roadways, in areas with road construction, and in locations with unexpected traffic delays. Drivers who are experiencing stress while driving are more likely to resort to aggressive driving behaviors. If another driver is aggressive, they are exhibiting a potential sign of road rage. Tailgating. Some signs that a driver near you is driving aggressively are that they are tailgating, speeding, changing lanes erratically, and/or failing to follow signs and signals. If you encounter an aggressive driver, the best thing to do is to get out of their path. You can help prevent road rage by starting your trip early. Road rage can be caused by stress, rushing, and unexpected delays. To help prevent stress and the need to rush while driving, begin your trip earlier than you think is needed in order to allow yourself time for unexpected delays. Do not use your high beam headlights when driving within call of an oncoming vehicle. 500 feet. High beam headlights should be used at night to help a driver see their surroundings more clearly. Drivers should switch to their low beams when they are within 500 feet of another vehicle. Turn off your high beams when driving behind a vehicle at a distance closer than 300 feet. When driving in the dark, high beam headlights should be used anytime there are no other nearby vehicles, weather permitting. Switch to your low beam headlights when following another vehicle at a distance closer than 300 feet. If conditions require you to use your windshield wipers, you should turn on your headlights. If conditions require you to use your windshield wipers, Maryland law requires you to turn on your headlights. It is important to remember that you should never use your high beam headlights if you are driving in rain, snow, or fog. Turn on your headlights anytime visibility is lower than 1,000 feet. If you are unable to clearly see 1,000 feet in front of your vehicle because there is not enough light, you are required to turn on your headlights. Be sure to follow safety regulations for using your low beam or high beam headlights. Before passing, you should turn on your turn signal. Before beginning a pass, it is important to communicate your intention by turning on the appropriate turn signal. Communicating with other drivers is essential to safety on the roadways. 62. Do not begin a pass within of a railroad grade crossing or intersection. 100 feet. Beginning a pass within 100 feet of an intersection or a railroad grade crossing is not permitted. If drivers' views are obstructed, it also not permitted to begin a pass within 100 feet of a bridge, elevated roadway, or tunnel. Stopping distance depends on several factors. Stopping distance depends on several different factors. It depends on the conditions of the road, the vehicle's brakes, and the tires, as well as the amount of time it takes for a driver to recognize the need to stop. At an intersection with no stop signs or working traffic signals, drivers should stop before reaching the stop line or crosswalk. When approaching an intersection with no stop signs or working traffic signals, drivers should stop before reaching the stop line or crosswalk. If no stop lines or crosswalks are present, drivers should stop before entering the intersection. At a stop sign, you must come to a complete stop. When approaching a stop sign, a driver must come to a complete stop before proceeding. After stopping, when it is safe to do so, the driver may then continue through the intersection. Before starting a turn, you should activate your turn signal. Before turning, it is important to communicate your intention by activating the appropriate turn signal. Communicating with other drivers is essential to safety on the roadways. When you need to make a turn, you should plan in advance. It is safest to plan a turn before reaching the turning point. Activate your turn signal with plenty of time for other drivers to safely respond to your intentions. Check your surroundings to ensure that it is safe before making the turn. Before making a U-turn, you should turn on your left turn signal. If you need to make a U-turn, you should first make sure you are in a location where it is safe and legal to do so. Before beginning the turn, activate your left turn signal to communicate your intentions to other drivers. You may turn right on a solid red light after coming to a complete stop. In general, drivers may turn right after coming to a complete stop at a solid red light. Before making the turn, they should activate their right turn signal and yield to any oncoming traffic or pedestrians. You may turn right on a solid red light, unless a sign prohibits the turn. After yielding to any oncoming traffic or crossing pedestrians, a driver may turn right on a solid red light as long as there are no signs present to prohibit the turn. A red sign is prohibitive. Red road signs are prohibitive. Red signs may tell drivers to stop, to yield, not to enter, or that they are traveling in the wrong direction. A fluorescent pink sign warns of an emergency traffic incident. A fluorescent yellow-green sign may indicate a school zone. Fluorescent yellow-green is used for school, pedestrian, and bicycle signs. Be especially alert for cyclists, children, and other pedestrians when near a fluorescent yellow-green sign. A solid yellow line next to a broken yellow line means that vehicles next to the broken line may pass. Yellow lines separate lanes of traffic moving in opposite directions. A broken yellow line next to your driving lane means that you may pass. You are driving on the freeway behind a large truck. You should drive farther behind the truck than you would if following a passenger vehicle. It is necessary to follow farther behind a large truck than you would if following a passenger vehicle because trucks have larger blind spots. You must yield to a pedestrian using a white cane or guide dog. At all times, extra space in front of a large truck is needed for the truck driver to stop the vehicle. Because they are larger, trucks take longer to stop than cars traveling at the same speed. Other drivers should not pull in front of a truck and then slow down or stop. When passing another vehicle, it is safe to return to your lane if you see the vehicle's headlights in your rearview mirror. Before returning to your original lane after passing, you must make sure you are not dangerously close to the vehicle you have just passed. When you can see both of the vehicle's headlights in your rearview mirror, you may have enough room to return to the lane. If you see orange construction signs and cones on a freeway, you must be prepared for workers and equipment ahead. As you enter a work zone, signs and message boards will warn you of workers, slow-moving equipment, and/or closed lanes ahead. You should reduce your speed and be prepared to slow down or stop. When you are merging onto the freeway, you should be driving at or near the speed of traffic on the freeway. A large truck is ahead of you and is turning right onto a street with 2 lanes in each direction. The truck may have to swing wide to complete the right turn. When a vehicle makes a turn, the rear wheels follow a shorter path than the front wheels. The longer the vehicle, the bigger the difference between the paths of the front and rear wheels. Therefore, long trucks often have to swing wide to complete a right turn. You drive defensively when you keep your eyes moving to look for possible hazards. You are driving defensively when you are looking down the road for potential hazards. Constantly staring at the road directly in front of your vehicle is dangerous. As you scan ahead, be alert to vehicles around you. Allow extra space in front of your vehicle when following a motorcycle. Allow for extra space when driving behind a motorcycle. Motorcycles can stop more quickly than other vehicles can, and you must have adequate room to stop if the motorcyclist brakes or falls off. Also, remember that motorcycles are difficult to see at night because they only have one tail light. You want to turn left at an upcoming corner. Yield the right-of-way to all approaching vehicles. A pedestrian starts to cross the street after the "Don't Walk" signal begins to flash. The pedestrian is in the middle of the street when your signal light changes to green. You should wait until the pedestrian crosses the street before proceeding. At a green light, you must give the right-of-way to any vehicle, bicyclist, or pedestrian in the intersection. If a pedestrian begins crossing the street after the traffic signal light starts flashing, wait until they have crossed the street before proceeding. A red arrow pointing to the right on a traffic light means you may not turn in that direction until the light turns green. A red arrow means stop. You must remain stopped until a green light or green arrow appears. Do not turn against a red arrow. An orange and red triangular sign on a vehicle always means slow-moving vehicle. Slow-moving vehicles, such as farm tractors, road maintenance vehicles, and animal-drawn carts, display an orange and red triangle on the back. You must yield the right-of-way to an emergency vehicle that is using its siren and flashing lights by driving as closely to the right edge of the road as possible and stopping. You must yield the right-of-way to any emergency vehicle that is using its siren and flashing lights. Do this by driving to the right edge of the road and stopping, taking care not to stop in an intersection. You may move again after the emergency vehicle has passed. When a school bus is stopped on the road ahead to load or unload children, you must come to a complete stop until the red lights stop flashing and the stop arm is withdrawn. When a school bus is stopped on the road ahead with its lights flashing and its stop arm extended, you must come to a complete stop and wait to proceed until the lights have stopped flashing and the stop arm is withdrawn. Even after the bus begins to move again, do not proceed until you are sure there are no children crossing the road ahead of you. You can drive off the road to pass another vehicle. Under no circumstances, while driving at night, a vehicle coming toward you has its high beams on, making it hard for you to see the road ahead. You should look ahead toward the right edge of your lane. If an oncoming driver fails to dim their high beams, you should avoid looking directly at the headlights. Instead, look toward the right edge of your lane and watch the oncoming vehicle out of the corner of your eye. You are crossing an intersection and an emergency vehicle is approaching while using its siren and flashing lights. You should continue through the intersection, pull to the right, and stop. If you are in an intersection when you see an emergency vehicle approaching while using its flashing lights and/or siren, continue through the intersection and then drive to the right and stop. You must yield the right-of-way to any police vehicle, fire engine, ambulance, or other emergency vehicle using a siren or flashing lights. If a green arrow turns into a solid green light, you may still turn, but you must yield to oncoming traffic. If a green arrow turns into a solid green light, you may still turn in the direction that the arrow was pointing, but you must first yield to pedestrians and oncoming traffic. When making a right turn on a green light, you must yield to pedestrians. Unless a posted sign prohibits it, you may turn right or left at a steady green light. When turning, you must yield to other vehicles and pedestrians within the intersection. You may cross solid yellow lines when making turns. As a general rule, broken traffic lines may be crossed, but solid lines may not. Solid yellow lines may be crossed only when the driver is making a turn. Drivers who eat and drink while driving have trouble controlling their vehicles. Choosing to eat, drink, or smoke while driving is dangerous because these actions require a driver to remove their hands from the wheel and their eyes from the road. Drivers who engage in distracting activities while driving have trouble staying in their lanes and controlling their vehicles. If someone is driving aggressively behind you, you should try to get out of the aggressive driver's way. If you encounter an aggressive driver, you should make every attempt to get out of their way. You should avoid making eye contact with a hostile driver. Challenging a hostile driver by speeding up may only make them angrier, thereby increasing their danger. If your car breaks down on a highway, you should use your four-way flashers to warn other drivers. If your vehicle breaks down on the highway, you should signal before carefully exiting the roadway and turning on your hazard flashers. Get as far off the road as possible and park in a location where other drivers can easily see you. Lift your hood to let other drivers know your vehicle is disabled. The most important thing to remember about speed management and curves is that you must Slow down before you enter the curve. The most important thing to remember about driving in curves is that your vehicle's inertia may make it difficult to turn. To maintain control, it is essential that you slow down before entering the curve. When exiting a highway, you should slow down. Once you have moved into the exit lane. When exiting a highway, you should get into the exit lane well in advance. Do not begin to slow down until after you have moved into the exit lane. When making a turn, you must your speed. Reduce. When turning, you should reduce to a speed that allows you to maintain control of your vehicle, stay in your lane, and react to unexpected situations. Drive below the posted speed limit when anything makes conditions less than perfect. When the road is wet or slippery, when you cannot see well, or when anything else makes conditions less than perfect, drive below the posted speed limit. Even if you are driving within the posted speed limit, you can still be ticketed for driving too fast for conditions. Your ability to stop is affected by the condition of the road. Your ability to stop is greatly affected by the condition of the road. You need to reduce your speed when road conditions are poor in order to maintain control of your vehicle. You will be at risk if you are driving too quickly on roads that are slippery, and you need to stop. When driving on slippery roads, you should increase your following distance. On slippery roads, you should increase your following distance. It may take more time to stop your vehicle than it would under normal conditions. What does alcohol do to your driving skills and judgment? It harms both driving skills and judgment. Alcohol negatively affects many skills needed for safe driving, including your reaction time and ability to see clearly. It can also harm your judgment of speed and distance, lower your inhibitions, and make you more prone to taking chances. What is the only way to reduce your blood alcohol concentration? Allow your body time to get rid of the alcohol. The only method that effectively reduces your BAC is to not drink alcohol for a period of time. Coffee, exercise, and cold showers cannot reduce your BAC or change the effects of alcohol. They can help you remain awake, but they cannot change your BAC or make you sober. What happens if you drink alcohol while taking prescription or over-the-counter medicine? The combination could multiply the effects of the alcohol or medicine. Consuming alcohol and other drugs together can increase the impairing effects of both. For example, having one drink while you are also using a cold remedy could affect you as much as several drinks would when being consumed separately from any medications. A driver should be extra alert to motorcyclists, bicyclists, and pedestrians because they're difficult to see in traffic. In many collisions with motorcycles, bicycles, and pedestrians, drivers reported that they were looking but still did not see the smaller vehicle or pedestrian. These can be more difficult to spot in traffic than passenger vehicles because they are smaller, may move faster, and have less noticeable lighting. To prevent collisions with these smaller and less protected road users, drivers should always be alert to the presence of motorcycles, bikes, and pedestrians. At an intersection with a yield sign, you should slow down and yield the right-of-way to other traffic. A yield sign means that you must slow down and yield the right-of-way to traffic in the intersection or roadway you are entering. When a stop is required at an intersection and no markings appear to indicate a stop line or crosswalk, a driver should stop where they have a clear view of approaching traffic before they enter the intersecting roadway. If there is no stop line or crosswalk, you should stop at the point nearest to the intersecting roadway where you can get a view of approaching traffic. You should not enter the intersecting roadway to gain a better view. You are preparing to exit the interstate. When should you start reducing your speed? Immediately upon entering the deceleration lane. When leaving an interstate, you should maintain your speed until you enter the deceleration lane, at which point you should reduce your speed to the exit ramp's posted advisory speed. When driving in fog, rain, or snow, use low beams. Low beam headlights should be used in fog, rain, and snow. The light from high beams will reflect back to the driver under these weather conditions, causing a glare that will make it difficult to see ahead. When driving at night, you should increase your following distance. Increase your following distance when it is difficult to see due to darkness. Use headlights to increase visibility, following the rules for proper use of high beams and low beams. Avoid looking directly at the headlights of an oncoming vehicle to avoid being blinded by the glare. If you find yourself in a skid, stay off the brakes. In rainy weather, you should be most careful when turning or stopping. During the first half hour of rain, you should be extra careful when turning and stopping during the first half hour of rain. At this point, the oil from cars has not yet washed off the pavement and could be forming a slippery mixture with the rain. It is legal to make a left turn at a red traffic light after stopping only if you are traveling on a one-way street and turning onto another one-way street. After coming to a complete stop, you may turn left at a red light only if you are traveling on a one-way street and turning onto another one-way street. Only make the turn if there are no posted signs prohibiting such a turn. If two drivers arrive at the same time to a four-way intersection controlled by stop signs, the driver on the right has the right-of-way. Yield the right-of-way to the driver on your right at a four-way intersection if you both arrive to the intersection at the same time. You may then proceed when it is safe to do so. Before switching on the ignition, you should be sure all of the vehicle's occupants have buckled their seatbelts. Develop a routine for entering and leaving your car. Before switching on the ignition, buckle your safety belt and see that all passengers do likewise. Distracted driving is extremely risky behavior. Distracted driving is extremely risky behavior that puts not only you and your passengers in danger, but also endangers pedestrians, bicyclists, and other motorists sharing the road. Focused attention on driving helps to prevent crashes. A single broken yellow line down the center of a two-lane road indicates lanes are moving in opposite directions and drivers are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. Yellow lines are used to separate traffic moving in opposite directions. Dashed lines indicate that drivers directly next to the line are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. A single broken white line down the center of a two-lane road indicates lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. White lines are used to separate traffic moving in the same direction. Dashed lines indicate that drivers directly next to the line are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. A solid white line down the center of a two-lane road indicates lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are not permitted to pass. White lines are used to separate traffic moving in the same direction. Solid lines indicate that drivers are not permitted to pass. A double solid yellow line down the center of a two-lane road indicates lanes are moving in opposite directions and drivers are not permitted to pass. Yellow lines are used to separate traffic moving in opposite directions. Solid lines indicate that drivers are not permitted to pass. Signs that are colored orange are work zone signs. Highway work zones are established according to the type of work underway along the roadway. Signs in work areas are typically diamond-shaped, orange, have black letters or symbols, and serve as a warning that people are working on or near the highway. Guide signs are voice signs that provide directional and mileage information to drivers. Green guide signs, sometimes known as destination signs, have a green background and provide directional and mileage information to specific destinations. They can be a helpful resource when driving in unfamiliar locations. Regulatory signs are usually core and should always be obeyed. White regulatory signs regulate the movement of traffic. They are usually white with black markings and must always be obeyed by motorists. Pennant-shaped signs indicate no passing zones. Pentagonal signs indicate school zones. Pentagonal signs indicate that you are in a school zone. Be extra alert to children and pedestrians when driving near a school. An octagonal sign is always a stop sign. A diamond-shaped sign warns of existing or possible hazards. Diamond-shaped signs warn drivers of existing or potential driving hazards. You will usually see these signs in yellow or orange. When approaching a steady yellow traffic light, drivers should slow to a stop unless they are already within the intersection. When approaching a steady red traffic light, drivers should come to a complete stop. A steady red traffic light indicates that drivers must come to a complete stop. Driving through a red light is against the law and is extremely dangerous. Drivers may turn right on a steady red light if there is no sign prohibiting a turn on red. When approaching a flashing yellow light, drivers should slow down and proceed with caution. When approaching a railroad crossing warning sign, be prepared to stop if a train is nearby. Railroad crossing warning signs are used to warn drivers of the possibility of a train. Drivers should obey all railroad crossing warning signs and never go around barriers or disregard the warning sign. What do speed limit signs indicate? The maximum or minimum speed that is legally allowed to be driven. Speed limit signs indicate the maximum or minimum safe speed that is allowed to be driven on a roadway. The maximum limits are for ideal conditions, and you must reduce your speed when conditions require it. Greatly increase stopping distances and severity of crashes. High speeds. High speeds greatly increase stopping distances and severity of crashes. The faster you drive, the greater the impact or striking power of your vehicle should you be involved in a collision. Larger vehicles have larger blind spots. The larger the vehicle, the larger the blind spots. Large trucks and SUVs have spots close to their rears that cannot be seen in their side or rear view mirrors. A driver entering interstate traffic from an entrance or acceleration ramp should yield to drivers already on the interstate. If you are on an entrance or acceleration ramp and are entering interstate traffic, you should yield to drivers already on the interstate highway. Merge safely into traffic when you are able to do so. If you are driving on the interstate and pass your exit, you should continue driving and use the next exit. Motorcycles are entitled to the same full lane width as other motor vehicles. If your vehicle begins to skid, you should turn your steering wheel in the direction of the skid. When approaching a flashing red traffic light, drivers should treat the light like a stop sign. When approaching a steady green traffic light, drivers should continue driving unless there are vehicles or pedestrians already in the intersection. When approaching an intersection with a steady green traffic light, yield to pedestrians in the crosswalk and vehicles still in the intersection. You may continue driving, but should approach the intersection at a speed that will allow you to slow down and stop if the light changes before you get there. An end school zone sign indicates the end of a reduced speed zone. Do not exceed the school zone speed limit during indicated times. The end of a reduced speed school zone will be indicated by an end school zone regulatory sign. Downward-facing triangular signs tell drivers to yield. Downward-facing triangular signs usually indicate that drivers should yield. Once the road is clear of traffic or pedestrians and it is safe to do so, drivers may proceed. Round signs indicate upcoming railroad crossings. Round signs warn drivers of an upcoming railroad crossing area. Drivers should use extra caution when approaching a railroad crossing. Crossbuck signs indicate railroad crossings. At a four-way stop, the driver to arrive first has the right-of-way. At four-way stops, traffic from all four directions must stop. The first vehicle to reach the intersection should move forward first. If two vehicles reach the intersection at the same time, the driver on the left yields to the driver on the right. Remove all snow, frost, and ice from all windows. It is important that you are able to see clearly through all of your vehicle's windows, including the windshield. Remove all snow, ice, and frost from your vehicle's windows and mirrors before you start to drive. A regulatory sign containing a red circle with a slash through the middle indicates that an action is forbidden. Some regulatory signs prohibit certain actions. These signs are rectangular and white with red and black markings. A red circle and slash on top of a black symbol indicates that the specified action is forbidden.